John Atkinson and I'm a session drummer, freelance drummer, and today we have been recording some drum samples for Drumdrops, this beautiful 1960s Rogers Powertone kit with very nice late 50s Ludwig WFL snare drum. From my point of view, it involves lots of hits on each drum. Lots of hits of each dynamic range, so we have 12 different dynamic ranges from sort of very quiet to very loud, and each of those are repeated several times, so that, because obviously each hit when you hit a drum is not going to be the same, so we have 12 different dynamic ranges and then each of those multiple times, so from my point of view it's a lot of a lot of hits of each drum, but and then each drum is also recorded through each microphone as well, so we're getting the sound of the room, which is really important for this. As we're playing it, as I'm recording it, I can actually hear how the room changes as you play louder. So for instance with the snare drum, the louder you hit it, the more you hear the other drums sort of vibrate, and you can actually feel it in the room. You know, the cymbals start going off. When you hit the bass drum, the cymbals sort of slightly vibrate, the toms vibrate as well, and we're picking all of that up through all the microphones. So instead of just being like a single drum recorded at a single dynamic, it's each drum recorded at multiple dynamics with multiple different versions of those dynamics recorded through all the mics with all the drums vibrating in the room. So it's as close to playing a real kit. When you put it all together, you know, when you play back the samples that we have via MIDI, either with an electronic kit or through using MIDI grooves, it's as close to playing a real kit as you can get, because a real kit is more than just the sum of its parts, that they all vibrate together and within the room as well. I think this particular kit has got a real sort of vibe to it. It's very cool actually. It's a smallish room compared to some of the other rooms in London, and the kit is certainly got character. It's fantastic actually. It's the Rogers drums are sort of quite middly, different from the Ludwigs, which I suppose people might be more familiar with the Ludwig kit. The Rogers, beautifully made sort of American set of drums. They're a bit drier. They don't have quite as much sort of. The Ludwigs are quite thumpy, and these are sort of a bit more usable over a broader variety of sounds. So, for instance, the people who used to endorse this sort of kit back in the 60s would be so Buddy Rich, sort of big band stuff. Earl Palmer, who did a lot of LA sessions in the 60s. David Garibaldi from Tower of Power. I mean, that's quite a broad spectrum of sounds. The way we've got it set up at the moment is kind of quite middle of the range, so we've got coated ambassador heads top and bottom on the toms, so that's quite sort of open and 60s sounding. The bass drum is quite dry. We've recorded that with standard felt beater and also with the wool beater as well, to get that sort of real, if you wanted to do a big band type thing with it, that would be perfect for that. It's quite open. The snare is particularly open. I mean, this drum, because it's got 8 lugs and it's got brass hoops on it, is very open, very sort of long sustained sound. So which is great actually. It's lovely to play, and the cymbals sort of. These are a bit newer actually. These are Formula 602, which is a current model from Peisty, but they've got a sort of vintage quality to them. But I mean, overall, I think the kit is, like I say, it sort of covers quite a lot of ground. But it's exactly the sort of thing that someone like Beck or you know, that sort of quite close, because it's done in quite a small space and they're cool microphones and cool preamps and stuff. It's got a definite sort of character to it that is different from anything else, because it's in this room and it's tuned in this way, and it's cool. It's got a nice vibe. It's got some very fun little boings and rattles sort of within the kit, which I hope we're managing to capture. This snare is I think it's probably late 50s or very early 60s Ludwig WFL. which is a wood snare drum. It's great. It's really sort of open, and it's got quite a long sustain to it. We've recorded it completely open with no damping, and we've also done it very, very damped down as well, sort of with a wallet stuck to it. So and sort of with and without the snares on, and so on. It's as I say, sort of 8 lugs, and the brass hoops make it about as open as you can get for a drum like this. It's very woody sounding. It's good. We've got a Ludwig 400, which I think we're going to have a look at a bit later as well, which is metal, similar age drum, sort of around about 1960, give or take, and all brass, but obviously this has the woodier tone of a maple and mahogany drum. What we do is we record several different parts of the drum, or each one is done at a different dynamic level. So for instance, start out with just simple hits right in the middle of the drum, going up from dynamic level 1 to 12, and multiple hits of that, and each one, of course, they're all going to be slightly different, because they're not, my hand coming down isn't going to be exactly the same each time. Minuscule differences on sort of where you hit it on the drum make a quite significant difference. So if you were to play the samples one after the other, you don't get that sort of machine gun effect that you would hear if the samples were exactly the same. They're all ever so slightly different, but it's fractional. So we do record the centre of the drum, record the edge of the drum. Got some rim shots, so that's proper rim shot, by which I mean hitting the centre of the drum and the rim at the same time. Cross stick sounds, snares on, snares off, damps, not damp, I mean every sort of possible combination that we can think of, really, all at multiple hits at multiple dynamic levels. So pretty much covering everything that we can possibly think of.
I'm Ben Thackeray. I'm in-house Drumdrops engineer. We're here today at the Bridge Studios in Bermondsey, where we've been recording single hits for this Rogers kit that actually resides in the studio. Been here with Jonathan Atkinson today. I was here with Tim Weller yesterday. We were recording some multi-tracks as well, and these are the recorded single hits of the multi-track album. Well, the sound we've gone for this time is the album is like a kind of English American sort of 60s pop kind of sound. So we've been referencing tracks by kind of Booker T and the MGs, and there's some Tom Jones stuff, and the Kinks and the Beatles, that kind of stuff. So I've gone for a kind of 60s miking setup, really, which is quite minimal. I've just used 5 mics around the kit. There's a D12 which we're using sort of as a kick drum. It's quite far back from the kick drum mic, from the kick drum itself. So we've got that. I've just got a close electro voice mic on the snare, just as a close snare mic. Really, because when I set the other mics up around the kit, not really wanting to close mic too much, but when I set those up, just seemed there was like it could use an extra mic on the snare, just for people to add a little bit of extra punchy snare sound. We've got D19 over the kit, which is a dynamic mic, which is picking up a lot of the hi-hat. Actually, it's very mid-rangey, so there's a lot of mid-range sound from that. We've got a Coles 4033 sort of over here by the floor tom, which is picking up a lot of floor tom and kick, and it's a very warm sounding mic. You get a lot of sort of nice warmth from low end from that. And we've got this M149, which is sort of quite nice sounding valve, sort of hi-fi sounding mic, and that's picking up a lot of nice top end from the rise and the crashes and the rest of the kit. So the idea of the kit really is that I've recorded it so it should be used in mono, and you get a sound really from combining the sound of all these mics together, and then you can change the balances, and changing just the volume balance between the mics should really significantly change the sound of the kit without having to use any EQ, compression. So it's quite a purist way of doing things. It's also quite crucial that all the mics around the kit are all equidistant from the kind of centre of the snare. It's that old Glyn Johns technique of just using, I think he used to use 3 mics, but he'd use a kick and sort of a mic here and a mic kind of there, and they'd all be exactly the same distance from the centre of the snare, and that's just to avoid on having too much phasing issues going on. The D12 is running through a Neve 1073, and I've just added a little bit of bottom end EQ onto that, but I think that's the only EQ, that's the only processing I've done. The snare mic's running through a Chandler mic pre, as is the D19. The M149 is running through an API, and the Coles is running through a G-Tech. Well, as you can see, it's quite a small room, so it was about the sound we were going for. That sort of quite dead, not dead, but a kind of it's not a big roomy sound that we were going for. We wanted to capture that kind of deadish 60s kind of sound. So the minimal mic technique and the room are all an integral part of that. It's kind of, you couldn't get the same sound if you close mic'd everything and then tried to mix it sound like a 60s kit. You wouldn't really get the same sound as you get if you just recorded it in this sort of configuration. And the thing that becomes important when you're recording drums like this is the sound of the room and also the drummer, because there's no close mics on the toms and stuff, so if the toms aren't loud enough, the drummer just has to play the tom louder. It's the only way to turn it up. It's kind of, you don't quite have the same flexibility in mixing that way, but I think overall the sound is much more interesting, much more authentic when it's recorded like that, and the room is a massive part of that.